So hi, today I'm going to start a new series which is going to run over a period of probably about 10 videos, which is covering the topics about the law of attraction, which is taken from my book called The Source. Now, it's not about promoting it, it's just about helping you to understand how to use the law of attraction and the law of self in order to progress forward. I'll see you after this intro. So greetings, welcome back. My name is M. I'm from Karnak Holistics, where we learn together and we grow together in the sight of God. So as I said at the beginning, I'm going to start my new series, which is called The Source, and it's based on my book, which is called The Source, obviously. So this can be found on Amazon and in most shops. So what is the source? The source is based upon a law of attraction. And it's also research as I've been developing over a period of time in how I've used my own trials and my own executions in order to kind of like document my successes and sometimes my failures as well, because they're equally as important. But basically, this book covers over 12 chapters. First, it speaks about my journey, and then I'll speak about an introduction. And then I'll start to speak about the Emerald Tablet, which covers obviously where the law of attraction is from, beginning in Egypt, which I will tag on at the end. And then I speak about the law of self. And then I speak about the law of belief, the law of energy, the law of attraction itself, the law of abundance, the law of gratitude, the law of polarity, and the law of cause and effect, and the law of laughter, and the law of vibration. So today I'm doing a law of self, which I'm going to be taking a lot of readings from. This is the teacher's manual, which I use. And basically the synopsis on this, the law of self, says there is an inner self and an outer self. The inner self is a soul and a spirit. And a source has been created. This can be educated, and this has the direct links to the source and the universe. The outer self is a physical body, which is the inner self. So basically, that's basically about the self. So what I wanted to speak about was the journey. I just want to briefly speak about where I've come from, just as an introduction, and why I decided to write this book. And this book ranges from the time when I was 21. I'm now in my late 40s. And already some time ago, but it took me about 5 to probably about 8 years to kind of make up my mind to publish it. Because I wasn't quite ready, and I wanted to make sure that everything I've written about was either backed up or authenticated with my own journey. As you know, you see in many of my videos, I only speak from my own experience, and that's the best way I can kind of work it, to be honest. So what I want to do is just speak about my journey and what kind of things kind of like committed me or kind of helped guide me into speak about this actual video or this actual book, and why I wanted to write it. Now, it's not actually a autobiography. It's more of a journey and my reflections upon these various types of laws, which is the law which govern us, these laws of nature. And these laws of nature are specifically strong and specifically about, if we use it right, it can enrich us and help us get through some challenging times in our life. But if we also go against the grain of the laws, it can be quite self-inflicting. a law which is a natural law, so it happens no matter whether you believe it or you don't believe it. Like, there's a sky, there's a moon, there's a sun, there's a universe, there's people, and all these things are factual. There's other aspects about laws which are law, whether you have belief in God or you don't. That's down to your own individual, obviously, beliefs. But my journey, which I wanted to speak about, and I'm just going to recap on a few things which I just wanted to share with you, which kind of set this kind of journey up to do with the source. Now, when I was 21, I wanted to start my own business. I wanted to have a clothing and record shop, which you'd have at the top. You'd have the clothing, high end, very minimalist, wooden floors, railing, like the railings we're talking about in the 90s now. And in the basement, kind of like graffiti on the walls with a record shop. This is the days when there was records and stuff. Now, within that journey, I began to work with the Prince's Trust and got awarded a research grant, which I used, and I set up a stall in Hackney, where I was originally from. Then as I began to grow and progress, I was advised, because my CV was strong, so my business plan was strong. The Prince's Trust said there was this competition coming up which would award people with kind of grants and so on, in order to help set the business up. If it wasn't given a grant, it will be good to show, have some kind of like feedback out there. So I attended it and I submitted it, and it was for the Shell Business Award, which is Shell, which is the actual petrol station company, or the oil company. This is back in the early 90s. I kind of entered it, and unfortunately, I wasn't successful, which is a good thing in a way. But what happened after that was there was a new category which was opened up, which everybody else's business was up and running. Mine wasn't. Remember, I was just in a process of being marketed. And what I did do, they said basically they really liked this business plan, and they thought it was really strong. Considering the business hasn't been set up yet, or it's in the process of being set up, they wanted to show, open up a new category because it was that strong. So they called up my name, and I remember talking to someone next to me and going, "Oh, that sounds like me." And they go, "That is actually you." So my business is going to be called Jordan Dominique, after my son. And I went up and I got my award. I was in the early 20s, so I must have been about 21. Young father of a 2 to 3 year old. And I kind of like boosted my ego in a way to say my beliefs in myself, coming from a family which I was the youngest, and you had to fight in order to be recognised. And then that was one of my key moments in my business career, to do with what I want to achieve and what I knew I saw my goal and my ambitions, what I want to achieve in order to leave my legacy behind and start, because my son was born. But this aspect I was wanting to read for you, which was based upon myself and my thoughts back when I was in my teens. And I just want to read this, where it says, "I cannot change the past, however, I can shift the future. I got fed up with owing people money and favours, continuing to being broke and feeling broken. It was so important to me to move forward and not let people who taught me to make this my own truth. I soon came to realise that what I was doing and how I was living was how people viewed me. And I realised that I was that guy who never had any money. People would always walk all over me. It was a difficult realisation that I had to allow myself to become this person. As I began to grow and I wanted to change. So what I realised I needed to do, I wanted to start my own group. And I went into music and I started to excel there. And it grew from there. I started doing my own cartoons as well. And I worked with a company in London, and pulling up in London on my BMX, because I was still quite young. I must have been about 16. And I put up in London. I was working with TSI Video and in Holborn. And I was in a video called Battle Beyond the Stars I was working on. It was a futuristic cartoon, which I wanted to be a animator at that time. And it was really inspiring for me because it was something different from where any of my family or my brothers have done before. And so when I obviously worked with them, and I remember meeting a guy called Tony Venning who kind of mentored me and kind of like set me up on my journey to do with cartoons. I remember I had to buy all these thing called cells, which was like a plastic sheet. It was like A4 size, and it was clear, and you had to draw in it and colour in it, and then that would be photographed and then put onto the screen as a cartoon. There's none of this CGI stuff yet. So I couldn't afford it, basically, not with my family. So long story short, I remember him sending boxes and boxes, must have been like 30 boxes, big boxes, with a pair with about 3 couriers that came to life. My dad answered the door, and it was obviously the courier said it was for me, and they lined all the hallway with all my cells, my paints and my pens and my drawing, and it was just amazing. I was just like blown away, and my dad was like, "Oh my gosh, like, where did you get this from? What did I do?" Straight away negative. But anyway, I moved all the stuff into my bedroom so it looked like a warehouse, and I started to draw and dry it. This all kind of makes sense because it's like my journey. And the whole time people were saying, "You're never going to do it." My art teacher was saying, "It's impossible to do." So I just went out and I just did it. And when I did it and I finally completed it, it wasn't very long. It was probably about 2 to 3 minutes long, but it took me like 8 months to create, just me on my own. And I remember going to TSI Video in Holborn with my BMX, left outside the offices, and the receptionist would keep an eye on it, and then we'll bring it in, then I'll have my drinks. When we kind of started filming and stuff, it took a couple of days, and I was spending time doing it. And the whole time people was going, "Oh, just be careful that, this guy's not up to anything." And at that time, he was really, really supportive, and he treated me like I was somebody. And I remember seeing before we went into production, we would sit in a meeting. So there'll be any projects that's coming up, we will sit in and we would talk about the different representatives from different companies would go to this meeting. And it was in this big boardroom in London. And I would turn up there and I couldn't even get on the chair. My legs were hanging down off the chair. And we will go around, and there's representatives from Warner Brothers, Disney, and all these other studios. And then it went Vidal Cartoons, that's what it's called. And they go, like, what the plan is. And I was just going, I was telling my plan, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to achieve. And it was, whether people say they were kind of like just allowing me to just go through the motion and they were just like playing up to it. I don't think they will do something like that. It's just people's perception, because that's what they're thinking, because obviously they want me to wait. They wouldn't waste their time. But anyway, I got the video done and I got it filmed and onto video. And then it was played at home. It was almost like a big premiere. And not once I got kind of any recollection or any reward to say for my dad to say, "Well done, blah, blah, blah." But when I did do it, he turned around and said, and I managed to show it, he was so proud that he turned around and said, "Look, see, you're a true Vidal." And I was like chuffed for ages. And I realized in my own infinite wisdom that it wasn't down to me being this name. It was for the fact is that it was me that created it. It was down to me that put the ideas together. It was me that attended the meetings. It was me that overcame the frustrations, the angers, the negative views from people around me, and all this stuff. So this is what the journey and how it was important that you need to remember your goal and what you want to achieve, because no one else can live your dream. So I wanted to read another. I just wanted to start to talk about the law of self, and I wanted to speak about the short synopsis which the Dalai Lama mentioned or said, he said, within a realization of one person's potential and self-confidence in one's own ability, one can build a better world. That was the Dalai Lama. Now, with that view of the law of self has to overcome certain obstacles in life. And certain obstacles will be negative or critical negative views or constructive criticism sometimes that will kind of like you would want to be derailed. And sometimes people say things to derail you because, remember, they don't see your dream. They won't understand what God has given you, this dream, this goal in life. And a lot of people won't understand it. They may kind of get it, but they won't understand where you're coming from. It's almost like they can't see through your eyes because this dream is given to you. So when you go to somebody like a parent or a family member, I'm not saying it's not wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong to not get advice. It's get advice, but don't take it as gospel. So I've never taken things as gospel. I've taken things with a pinch of salt, kind of like if I'm steering off the wrong direction. So if I go into somebody, like if I went to my parents, or I went to even my partner now, my fiance, and I say, this is what I want to do, and blah, blah, blah. And they're going, well, I don't really see you doing that because X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 or I'm not too sure, but it's you. I won't go, yeah, you're right, and then I'll just give up. That's just what I won't want to do. And or if someone says to me, I go, look, I want to do, I wanted to start when I wanted to do my music, and I said about starting my band, and they were going, well, you kind of in dance. They didn't know I was dancing, doing practice for 4 or 5 hours a day, practicing routines and putting choreographing videos. No one knew that. No one knew that I was writing my own music, writing lyrics and raps and so on, and going to recording studios. Nobody knew that because I never told them. They just see what they know to see until I came and had evidence. So no one's going to realize your dream, and it's down to you to understand your law of self, your own given truth within. The law of self is created from your own spirit. It is something that is sucked in to your core, and it's within your spiritual DNA. Now that DNA can be shifted and manipulated and help to progress you forward. But with that, I love that saying, with greater responsibility, with greater blessings, there's greater responsibilities. So with great power, it has great responsibility. So with that, it's true because you take on a new premise in your life, like the Facebooks, the Microsofts, the Googles, all started from somewhere, all started with a dream. Can you imagine someone from Google, say Facebook, Mark talking about going to his mum, I'm going to set up a page on the internet where people can all meet up and talk online, and they can share pictures and videos, right? Ignore what you know now, but can you imagine what some of us said, you're all right. Even though there was messaging service then, and it was going to be free, how the hell are you going to be paid for it? Oh, through ads. So who's going to advertise on it? You know, so they'll be like, yeah, all right. You know, just if you think of it without knowing what Facebook is, look at what the structure would have been, and if someone would have said to you, that idea. It sounds ludicrous, but now look at it. Or Google, I'm going to create a search engine for you to search anything in the world, any subject, anywhere in the world, and people can put stuff on there. Yeah, okay. You know, could you imagine that someone who is say they were my generation and above, they would be only know who didn't have computers, who didn't have all these technology. They wouldn't understand. Did they stop? No, because you have it now. You know, the same with YouTube. Same with YouTube. All the people at YouTube, you know, when they started YouTube, I want to create a platform where everyone can share videos and they can have their own platform and put any video on it and share it and so on. Yeah, okay, kind of like a mini video, a mini TV series. And they were like, okay, yeah, you do that, you know, because no one knows their dream and no one will believe in their dream. Some do, some don't. Even the ones that do support you, they trust in you, you know. And it was like my idea when I turned around and said, you know what, I'm going to become an interfaith minister. Everyone was like, oh, okay, but you're going to become a priest. No, that's not a priest. It's a form of a priest, but it's working along all faiths. Who's going to hire you? That's not your problem. It's people that are in a faith, but are not in a faith, you know, but they want a religious or a spiritual symbolic union of marriage or christening or whatever. So it ranges. But yet, people want me to stay in the premise or the box of just being a healer, a clairvoyant, a medium, you know, all these things where they can understand what that is. Normally, oh, he's not quite there, or he talks to dead people. So, as I've gone along, most people know me that they say something and I will do the opposite normally. Still do it in work now, and I still do it with my business now. And I thrive on achieving goals and doing God's work. I think the only one when it comes to influence, I think on earth would be my fiance and my children. That they will kind of, I would ask him, okay, yeah, I can kind of see it, but then I'll kind of go off and do one thing. But the overall business model and me is the head, the boss himself, which is God. God dictates what is to be done. God dictated for me to start writing or doing this video based upon the source. I was thinking about different ideas and said, no, I want you to start doing the serial and the episodes from your book, you know. And I was like, okay, don't know why, but I just, you know, you kind of follow through. So the law of self is going to looking within. And I want to share with you some things about the brain, which is going to be a bit heavy, but please try and stick with it. And I put a little picture up here, which will give a symbolic idea about what the law of self and how it affects the body is. So there are 6 parts of the brain which affects the law of self. And they are the frontal lobe, which is here. And you've got the parietal lobe, which is at the back of your head. You've got the optical lobe, which is at the rear of your head, just below your bottom of your neck. You've got the temporal lobe, which is here, but it's this bit at the back. Then you've got the cerebral lobe, I should say, which is the stem at the stem, and then you've got the brain stemming, which is at the back as well of your head, which is the brain stem. So the parietal lobe splits 2 visions. Actually, let me start with the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is the motor function and the problem solving, memories, language, intuition, judgment, and also impulse control, social and sexual behavior. That's what the frontal lobe looks after. Then you've got the parietal lobe, which splits into 2 sections. One is the sensitives and perceptions, sensory and perceptions. The other is integration and sensory input and primary with the visual system. The optical lobe is the visual processing of the brain. So anything you see comes from the optical lobe and is projected to the brain for the eyes to see. The temporal lobe is the auditory perception, such as hearing. So that temporal lobe is basically when sounds come, it processes it and says, oh, that's a dog barking, that's a cat meowing, that's a horse neighing, or that's a cow mooing, or that's your other half complaining, so on and so forth. Cerebral lobe, which I hope I got right, is a computer of the brain, receives messages and parts of the brain, and is a spiral stem, which is at the back. It coordinates voluntary movements such as balance and speech. So again, when I'm doing healing and someone's got problems with speech and issues, I will place my hand at the rear of the head. That's where I'm kind of guided to, and that will help with the kind of like the visual aspects. Or if you're doing healing, you want to put your hand here for healing, and these are really good when you're doing healing as well to know, because these will help trigger that parts of your brain or to stimulate it. So if you're going for studying, you can meditate on that part of your brain or place your hands on that part of your brain to stimulate it for it to be more accessible. Then you've got the brain stem, which is basically what holds your brain on your neck. So that's the brain and how the brain works with self. Now, I want you probably wondering what the hell the brain has got to do with the law of self. Well, it is the law of self, same as the heart. So how you process stuff and how you see stuff is how it's been given to you, and how you then can manipulate it and kind of change it. And it's important that you do look at your own truth and own your own truth, because we are programmed to just exist and to go with the grain. And when we kind of like step off that rail, people find that hard. The Mother Teresa's, the Nelson Mandela's, the Martin Luther King's, the Princess Diana's, all these people that step out of the normal rat race and say, no, something's not right. But be prepared to be scrutinized and for people to try and pull you down. That's why I can't emphasize probably the law of self is so important. And when you probably heard me say you need to love yourself before you love anybody else, how can you love somebody else if you don't love yourself? Now, I don't mean that in a conceited way that, oh yeah, I'm the man, I'm the woman, I'm all that. It's more of, for the fact is that I know me, I know what I want, even that part of me which you feel is quite balanced. If there's a part of you which is imbalanced, that's fine, because that can get worked on. And when you meditate and you focus on what needs to be kind of like balanced or sorted out, spirit will show you if you allow them to. And it's important that you follow it through and you start to develop with that. Now, it's not easy, because especially when you need to look in the mirror, but I have to honestly tell you, things will get better. It does get easier. And the more you are true to yourself and true to what you want to do, and again, I'm not saying in a conceited way, if you are true to your own truth and you want to do something in life and you want to develop yourself, or you are not right in a relationship, or you're not right with somebody, or you're not right with friends, or you're not right in a job that you're doing, or you're not right in the area you live, you know what? It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to realize that this isn't where you're at. Look after yourself. Look at what you want to do, because it's easy to see and know, but harder to do and follow through. And for me, for example, I know I'm struggling massively with weight, and my journey is tough. And I have this inner dialogue with myself about what I should do or not, about what I should eat, where I should eat, what I shouldn't eat. And it's almost like an addiction. And the inner dialogue is what I need to overmaster and control. Once I've got that under control, I can then start changing. The only way I know I can do this is by behavior. So if I start behaving differently, start training, going for walks, start buying the different types of food, changing out the foods that I do purchase. Then above all that is start to love myself more, starting to know that, look, you're doing something, you know, there's nothing worse than, you know, something's going wrong and you're not doing anything about it. But if you want to, there's a saying people know me for, that I'd help you if you're going across a journey and you're struggling and it's hard, but you're trying to get from here to Z and you're going for A, B, C, D and so on. But if you're going around in circles and you know you're doing the same thing and you're chasing your tail, you can forget that I ain't with that. You know, I'm not gonna even entertain the stupidness or the fault blaming. You know, it's just not happening, because it's just excuses to try and get away from something which isn't true. And I found, like, for me, it took me until I think I must have been about 9, and I never knew my ABC because no one just didn't bother, or I just wasn't taught. Considering I had older siblings, I just didn't know, and I kind of got away with it. I was diagnosed dyslexic later on, and then even right into my 20s, struggled through work, but I am doing things to change that, and yet I know my ABC now, obviously, but for those first 9 years, I kind of like dodged it, and I don't think it was a big thing, but as I grew up and I recognized there's aspects of me doesn't conform to what other people are, because I'm never conformed to what other people are, but I know I'm more of a leader, and I own that, but I'm not a leader of men, if that makes any sense. I'm more of a kind of like an innovator or a inspirational person. I can kind of, I'm not one to go, well, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. That's not my strong point. My strong point is going, you know what? Come on, guys, let's get this going. This is what we can do. I think we need to do that. We need to do this. We need to go over there. And then the one who leads is God. So when people talk to me, people say to me, you're a natural born leader. And I goes, I'm not. I hate laying down the laws. I know when something's not right, and I'll speak out about it. Or I know my children are doing something wrong, or I sense it. Or I know which way to go, and I know what I want. Because I only know what I want because it's been given to me, and the God's gone like, yeah, you need to do this. And then I go, okay. And then I've gone, all right, what is it that needs to be done? And they're like, X, Y, and Z. Okay. And I'm relentless about when I do that. I'm like a bull in the china shop, and I get it done. But to turn around and go, okay, I'll sit at my desk and I'll go, where's the inspiration? How do I do this? And I will be a part of a team that will kind of like give suggestions and focus. And it's important you understand what you are, and what type of person you are. There's a beautiful test you can do, a personality test called the 1-2-3 test by John Holland. Just Google 1-2-3 test by John Holland, and it will tell you what kind of, like, if you're social, enterprising, or leader, whatever. It will just come up with the kind of like personalities you are, and it would also spit out kind of like jobs you can do around it. But that's probably not important right now. But it's more about who you are, and it's important that you kind of first assess who you are. Because if you can't assess who you are, how can you assess about where you're going? You know, and I remember working when I was in music with some artists, and I was an artist manager. And first thing I said to the group was, what music do you want to play? What is your rhetoric? What's your sound? And I looked at each other, and I'm like, How can you not know? You know, how can you not, as a band, not know whether you're rock, R&B, pop, jazz? And if you said to me, I'm a fusion of, I goes, all right, you can be a fusion of these different things, these different facets. That's still a journey. because no one, I don't believe, is just pure pop, pure R&B. You have fusions in it, and that's what these geniuses become, like Prince, Michael Jackson, James Brown. All these people can cross across boundaries, and Ella Fitzgerald all go across boundaries. So when I said, all right, then, so I get them to play, and they're like, okay, well, you're sounding it's more R&B, hip hoppy kind of thing, but you can feel a bit of kind of like pop in it, because it had that kind of like very at that time very much commercial feel to it. And then you go, you remind me of this group, or you remind me of this person, and that's the kind of same outlook I do with me. So when my son comes to me and says, I'm going to go and do this, and I would talk, and I'll go to him, you know what, I see you doing X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't mean that's what you should go and do. These are just, here's pathways I'm seeing from what God's showing me, but it's down to you to kind of pick a pathway to get to the end of the journey. So whether you go by bus, you go by plane, train, or automobile, or walk or cycle, you're going to arrive at the same destination. But these are the quickest way for you, because you may be fitter to ride than to go in a car and be sitting in traffic, because you may not have a good sense of direction. So that's simple and plain about you developing in who your own authenticity of self. And that's where the law of self comes from. And I know this is a long and heavy, probably one of the longest videos I've done, but I really wanted to really kick off with a kind of a detailed focus upon what the law of self is and what the source book is about. And so this is the book I'll be talking from, and it's on Amazon, and it's Gnosis 2. So it's the source, Gnosis 2, which I'll probably put up here again for you guys. It's really good to talk to you guys again, and I'm looking forward to doing this series, because it's something I've been shying away from, to be fair. But it's really good, and it feels good to do this today, and to start kind of like having the old doing these series based around what I'm doing. One thing I'm going to do is probably add a bit of the law of attraction, about the Emerald Tablet. So the next video may be slightly different. It'll be more around the Emerald Tablet, the history of it, what it's about, to kind of like introduce the more of the laws, and where all the others, like law of polarity, law of attraction, and the laws of cause and causality, where all these things come in. So yeah, I look forward to speaking to you soon. Stay blessed, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video, and namaste.